Welcome to Move the Chains with Jonathan Rivers. Here's your host, Jonathan Rivers.
And as always, let there be football. Welcome into the show. I'm Jonathan Bam Rivers. I'm getting real bold today. Now, I'm not saying that because I'm not bold all the time. I'm generally a bold person. I speak my mind. That's just the way God built me. But what I will tell you is I'm not bold because I want to be a contrarian. I'm not interested in your likes. I'm not interested in being somebody who's just trying to rock the boat. My takes are my takes for a reason. I truly believe in my takes. So what I'm doing is I'm giving you my bold predictions, or some of them for 2024. And as always in the show, I'm going to make sure that I answer your questions via social media. Definitely want to understand where you guys are as we move closer to the NFL season. So I want to talk about the landscape of the league and answer those questions for you. And there's a quarterback who has won a Super Bowl, who will likely be a first ballot Hall of Famer that a lot of people in the league think are washed up right now. And I'm going to tell you why that's one of the greatest nonsense narratives ever created. So I'll definitely chop that up. And I'll tell you why Mr. Irrelevant is everything but. All that and more right here on Move the Chains, but you know how we do it. Let's kick it off with first down. Bold predictions. Man, I love them. And I love them because I truly feel this way. And I know when I say some of these things, you may agree with them, and some of them you may say, hey, I see that coming as well. But generally, they're bold predictions because a lot of people won't agree with them. Again, that's not the reason I'm giving you these. I'm just telling you that these are my specific bold predictions. And the first bold prediction is Robert Saleh, head coach of the New York Jets, will be fired before the season ends. So again, in a lot of people's minds, you may say, well, I don't think this is a bold prediction because I think Robert Saleh won't be there at the end of the season anyway. No, I'm telling you, I think he'll be cut before the season ends. And this is why. I think the New York Jets have an overinflated sense of who they are and what they can be. Because the Jets have a top-notch defense. I'm not going to call them a championship caliber defense, but they have a top-notch defense, and a lot of that is due to Robert Saleh, who, remember, was one of the phenomenal defensive coordinators for the 49ers before he took the head coaching job. But I don't think I've been able to see Robert Saleh settle in. And the one thing that the Jets have needed throughout the duration of the history of this program, let's say for the past 20 years, has been stability. I haven't seen it. I've also seen this team draft guys at positions, especially on the defensive side and even on the offensive side of football, where they've been phenomenal, but yet they can't get the quarterback position right. And because of that, who takes the blame? It's going to be the head coach. Because even though you have a sure first ballot Hall of Famer in the building now, he only played 4 plays last year before he got hurt. Now we don't know what the situation is with him moving forward in terms of minicamp and how he's going to be mentally moving into the season, how well he gels with his teammates. That all falls on the head coach. Because if Robert Saleh can't get it together, if the Jets start off slow, please believe, I don't think he'll finish the season. So him getting fired is not a bold prediction. I don't think he'll make it to the end of the season. And I hate that because what I don't like is talking about people who won't have jobs. Now remember, I'm not saying they should do it. I'm just telling you I think they will do it and the season won't be concluded. Now, my second bold prediction, I know you guys are waiting for this. The Dallas Cowboys won't make the playoffs in 2024. And if you're a Dallas fan, I know you're probably saying something to me right now that your mother wouldn't appreciate you saying, or your father. But this is what I want you to understand. Dallas has won 12 games in the regular season, 3 consecutive seasons. That's phenomenal. So if you look at it that way, you're trying to do something that a lot of teams can't do. The majority of teams in the NFL don't win double-digit games 3 straight years, let alone do it 4 straight years, let alone it be 12 wins. And I'll also say this. Don't act like Dan Quinn not being a defensive coordinator anymore doesn't matter. Don't act like the losses of Tyron Smith, one of the best offensive linemen over the past decade since he's come into the league. Don't act like the loss of Tony Pollard and Stephon Gilmore. Don't act like those losses don't matter. Michael Gallup was one of the most consistent receivers on this team the past few seasons. Don't act like that loss doesn't matter. Dak Prescott has yet to be re-signed. He's a free agent after this season. This is the final year of his contract. Do you not think that that may become an issue? And more importantly, I won't forget how almost everybody and even their families were turning on Dak Prescott after the playoff loss to the Green Bay Packers this past postseason. I'm not going to forget that because I understand that no matter how much talent you have, camaraderie matters. Gelling matters. And I think Dak Prescott has been a phenomenal quarterback in the NFL, especially when you consider that he was a mid-round draft pick. I think he's been an exceptional leader. He's somebody that's done everything right from a standpoint of being able to try to lead this football team. But don't act like guys are not in the locker room talking trash about Dak Prescott and don't always trust him. We've literally heard it out of the mouths of players and players' families. So I think that dissension may show itself, and we also have precedent. We saw what the Philadelphia Eagles did last year. So I don't think the Dallas Cowboys make the playoffs in 2024 for the reasons that I just laid out for you. All right? And my third bold prediction I want to give you this morning is that the Indianapolis Colts, not the Jacksonville Jaguars, okay, not the Houston Texans. I think the Indianapolis Colts will win the AFC South. Now, that doesn't mean I don't think the Texans and the Jaguars may be a playoff team. I'd pick the Texans over the Jaguars. Like, I may not even see the Jaguars making the playoffs possibly. But when you look at the Indianapolis Colts, I think they have an underrated offense. And a lot of people have to realize that they were a pretty good team last year, and they were competitive in every game, and they lost their starting quarterback, who was a rookie. But what did Anthony Richardson get to do while he was hurt? He got to sit back, and he got to watch. So while a lot of people think that you have to play your quarterback early on if you draft them early like they did, they ended up doing it and ended up biting them in the butt because he ended up getting hurt. However, he was able to sit back and watch. A guy like Gardner Minshew operate an offense that has been built for Anthony Richardson. They have Michael Pittman Jr., they have guys like Josh Downs. They have weapons. And I want you to understand that Jonathan Taylor, this is the epitome of out of sight, out of mind because he was hurt. Do you not know that he was probably the best running back in the NFL before he got injured? And he'll be back. And I promise you, along with guys like Braden Smith and Quentin Nelson, one of the best interior offensive linemen in football, the Colts will run the football. Their biggest question mark is defensively. And their defensive coordinator, Gus Bradley, will tell you that. But they were very young in the secondary last year. Now they're a little bit more experienced. I think they're going to play a little bit more man than trying to play all the zone they've done because their technique may have gotten better. I think the Indianapolis Colts will be one of the biggest sleepers in the NFL, and I think they will bring home the AFC South crown in 2024. All right, that's it for First Down. When we come back, I'm going to be answering your social media questions. We'll be right back after the break with more Move the Chains. And welcome back in to Move the Chains. And before we get to your social media questions, which I appreciate as always, I've always got to take the time to thank you, the fans, for watching the show. It's a blessing to be here. It's a blessing to host this show. And I'm truly blessed and give all glory and honor to my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ for this opportunity. And once again, to the production team, one of the best in the business. I mean, again, I say that every week, but I mean it. I mean, every time we're prepping before the show, they're making sure everything is correct. If we have something that needs to be adjusted, if they see something that I'm doing wrong, making sure I have the right mic, everything is done top notch. So I truly appreciate the best production team in the business right here on Move the Chains. All right, without further delay, let's get through it, though. It's time for Second Down. All right, Tony, I ask, will 2024 look more like 2022 or 2023 for Jalen Hurts? Man, I love this question, and I have these conversations with multiple people throughout the year, just whether I'm at the house, whether I'm out and about coaching, or whether I'm out and about the store. So if you want to recall that in 2022, the Philadelphia Eagles were a minute or two away from winning the Super Bowl and beating the Kansas City Chiefs. They just couldn't get it done. Lost to Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, no shame. And Jalen Hurts was an MVP caliber quarterback that year. He was phenomenal. He was very phenomenal in the Super Bowl. I know a lot of people think that he was better than Patrick Mahomes. I don't think he was. He may have had better numbers per se, but I think the turnover that he had was huge. Mahomes was phenomenal, didn't turn the ball over. Having said that, Jalen Hurts was top-notch in the NFL running and throwing the football. Last year, I know Jalen Hurts dealt with a little bit of injury, but it was more than that. It was also his decision-making because Jalen Hurts went from throwing, 6 interceptions in 2022 to throwing 15 in 2023. Very bad decision-making, but I also think that came from very bad scheming and very bad play calling from an offensive coordinator standpoint. And this is why for the second straight year, he's going to have a different offensive coordinator. I don't think Brian Johnson was necessarily bad. He just may not have been ready for that opportunity because what they did was you paid A.J. Brown all that money. Now you want to go out and throw the ball all around the yard when the Philadelphia Eagles did what? They made their bread doing what? Running the football, being play-action oriented, and allowing Jalen Hurts to run it as well. So to answer the question, I think you'll see Jalen Hurts be more like he was in 2022 coming this year because he'll be healthy. What happened last year, I think Jalen Hurts is enough of a leader to help his team overcome that. So I think he'll have a better season, and it'll be reminiscent of the 2022 season rather than 2023. All right, what do we have next? Will Dak Prescott be a Dallas Cowboy in 2025? I'm going to tell you, I don't think he will be. Why? because I told you in the earlier segment, I don't think the Cowboys make the playoffs. And I don't think it's that. I just think that Dallas has done a disservice to Dak, and I don't simply mean by what they haven't done on the field. I mean, I think they put weapons around, they drafted well, they developed well. I just feel like every time Dallas doesn't do something right, it's Dak Prescott. And now, granted, he hasn't been great in the playoffs. I'm the first one to tell you that. I'm not here defending Dak, but I'm also telling you that Dallas may be reluctant to give him that bread and that contract because Jerry Jones may say, I want to be able to disperse that money elsewhere and not kill my salary cap with $50, $60 million to a quarterback who hasn't won me any playoff games past the divisional round. That might be what he says. But I think Dak Prescott understands that there are other teams that are going to not only pay him the money, but they're going to do whatever it takes to surround him with talent. And sometimes new scenery is just what a quarterback or a player needs to go to the next level, man. So if you ask my opinion, I don't think he'll be a Cowboy in 2025. But, of course, we'll have to wait and see. All right, what do we have next? Have the Jets made a mistake in signing Aaron Rodgers? By Patrick P. I'll put it this way. I don't think the Jets made a mistake in signing the talent of Aaron Rodgers, but I think they made a mistake signing the brand of Aaron Rodgers because his talent is undeniable. He's a winning MVP. He's won it multiple times. He's won a Super Bowl, and he's one of the greatest gifted quarterbacks ever. But I think there's a reason that Aaron Rodgers and his teams struggle when they get into the playoffs outside of that Super Bowl. You've seen it. And when they won a Super Bowl, remember, they got hot as a wild card, as the 6th seed back when there were only 6 seeds, and they ended up winning the Super Bowl. It was all warranted. It was validated. I'm not taking anything away from it. But my point is there's something different. And I think the fact that he doesn't necessarily come in and work with younger receivers, it matters. It may not matter to him because he's that good, but it may matter to the development of the team. And I'll just remind you of this before we leave. When he was with Green Bay, and those receivers 2 years ago were young and inexperienced, and Christian Watson and Romeo Doubs, everybody said it was the receivers were the reason that they weren't doing well, and Matt LaFleur, what have you. And then as soon as he leaves, the receivers are one of the biggest reasons, along with Jordan Love, that the Packers make the playoffs last year. Before he got to the Jets, Zach Wilson was the reason that they were a problem. He gets hurt. Now everybody points to the offensive line. But it was still the offensive line even before Aaron Rodgers got here. So I don't think they made a mistake in signing the talent because he's talented. It could help them be better. He's definitely an upgrade. But I think the brand of Aaron Rodgers is what's hurting a team that needs stability and needs leadership, and I think they're lacking it right now. All right, that's it for your social media questions. My nonsense narrative when we're back. We'll move the chains right after this. And we'll get back in to Move the Chains. This segment gets me more fired up the more I think about certain issues. I'm telling you guys, I have a list of these topics at the house that I can't wait to share with you guys. And you know what it's time for. My favorite segment of the show. It's time for my nonsense narratives. So give me my lower third, please. Do you see what this says? Russell Wilson is washed up. Don't act like it's not being said. You're probably saying it. You're probably looking at Russell Wilson and say, man, he's not what he was in Seattle. This man's terrible. He's washed up. I've got a graphic I want to show you there. I want to get deep down into why I think this was one of the most ridiculous nonsense narratives that I've ever heard. One of the most ridiculous narratives, excuse me. So over the past 2 seasons, and this is as a Bronco, we know he's a Steeler now, but as a Bronco, he had 64% completion percentage, passed for over 6,500 yards, had 42 passing touchdowns. It doesn't include total touchdowns, right? So he had rushing touchdowns as well, and 19 interceptions. I want to tell you why this is so important. Because over the last 2 seasons, when he was a Bronco, this is what Russell Wilson has done. And I'm going to tell you. So guys like Baker Mayfield, who led his team to the playoffs, who was a Pro Bowler last year. Matthew Stafford, who led his team to the playoffs and is probably a Hall of Fame quarterback. Lamar Jackson, who was an MVP last year. Do you know Russell Wilson had more touchdown passes than each of those players? I bet you didn't know that. Also, listen to this. Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Dak Prescott, Tua Tagovailoa, Trevor Lawrence, Jalen Hurts, and Geno Smith. All of those quarterbacks have thrown more interceptions than Russell Wilson the past 2 seasons. But everybody says Russell Wilson is washed up. So whatever he does, it doesn't matter. If he does something well, it's because of the coach or it's because of his teammates. If he doesn't do something well, it's all his fault. And I'm going to tell you where this came from. Remember when Russell Wilson was in Seattle? And he was everybody's golden boy, and he had the Legion of Boom. He came in with Marshawn Lynch, and they had a great offensive line in the running game. And Seattle built a juggernaut, and they're actually building it now. I'm going to talk about them probably more next week. But what I want to tell you is when he said he wanted out, and he wanted to move on. And he wanted to drive the bus, so to speak. A lot of people kind of crucified him for that, but some people understood. But Pete Carroll was like, no, I need you to go ahead and do what we're trying to do. If not, we don't need you. And then they went on to make the playoffs with Geno Smith. Doesn't mean that they wouldn't have done it with Russell Wilson. But ever since the Richard Shermans and the Marshawn Lynches and the people in the Legion of Boom down that defense have talked about how they didn't necessarily like Russell Wilson because he was somebody who wasn't always as available to the team, meaning he did his own thing. You needed to make an appointment with him. So because they didn't like him personally, everybody took that as if he's a bad guy. Doesn't matter that there were people who said, hey, Russell Wilson would come to work out. We would go to Hawaii and work out. He would fly everybody out. So there are people that are going to like you that are not going to like you. I don't care how you feel about Russell Wilson personally. That's your opinion. But let's not let that determine the reality of the situation is that he has not been terrible in Denver. Now, the team hasn't been good. The defense last year, to their credit, they got better in the last 6-7 games of the season. But let's not forget they gave up 70 points to the Miami Dolphins, man. Their defense was not good. So if you think Russell Wilson is washed up, I just don't think you're actually looking at the facts. You're looking at what other players have told you based on personal reasons. And I think that's why one of the greatest head coaches of all time, Mike Tomlin, brought him in to be a part of the Steeler Nation and the Steeler culture. So whatever Russell Wilson did, and I do think some things were to the extreme, like having his own office and all that type of stuff, it wasn't needed. But Russell Wilson is not washed up, and I think he'll show you that in Pittsburgh in 2024. All right, when we come back, it's the final segment of the day, which means it's time for the final drive. We'll be back when we move the chains right after this. All right, and welcome back in. It's the final segment of the show, and you know what that means. It's time for the final drive. Brock Purdy is relevant. Like, I don't even think we need to call him Mr. Irrelevant anymore. We know that's his title because he was the last pick in the draft of his draft class, but he's relevant. And I think he's a quarterback in a system. I think he's a quarterback in a system that plays to his strengths, and he takes advantage of it. So why do we kill teams when they don't put the requisite weapons around quarterbacks to help them become successful, but yet we kill the quarterback when he has the weapons and he uses them to the best of his ability and he gets mad results? The 49ers have been a winning franchise, and they've done nothing but win under Brock Purdy, and I think he struggled, but I think he'll continue to get better, so he's definitely relevant. So everybody that's on it, just get off of it. All right, and as always, you can not only catch me right here on Move the Chains on the Sports Leader WXTX Fox 54, but you can also catch us on YouTube. Make sure you go to @move_the_chains, subscribe to the channel, like the videos, and leave a comment so you can be able to talk it up with us on the show because you know we like to answer your questions via social media every week. All right, that's a wrap, man. It's been fun as always. For the best production crew in the business, I'm your boy, Jonathan Bam Rivers, and until next time, God bless.